The Stranger Things series finale came out last night. I watched it and then I watched the entire first season again. I watched all that last night and then this morning, and I just finished rewatching the first season because I hadn't seen it in years. And I have a lot of questions. Mostly these are gonna be questions about the series finale, but I'm also gonna have some season questions and then also a little bit of series questions. I'm just gonna get straight to the point. I'm just gonna get to the questions. I'm not really gonna critique the show as much right now. I'm gonna separate these questions by the finale and then also by the season/series. For the finale, I have a lot of questions. When they blew up the Upside Down, did all the women and pregnant, like all the pregnant women and the babies, did they just all die? Did they just kill everybody? At least like side character wise in there? I could be wrong, but I feel like they mentioned it in part 2 that they were going to, at least they addressed the pregnant woman in there. But I think they all just died. And then speaking of the people in the Upside Down, did the military just give up after they blew everything up? Did the military just give up and leave Hawkins forever? Immediately? How long did it take? Why didn't Linda Hamilton's character die? Like that could have been any other actress instead of a 80-year-old Linda Hamilton essentially, and it would have been better, but she should have also died. What happened to her? Did she stay on Hopper? What did she do? Speaking of Hopper too, after everything blew up, I feel like Hopper specifically would have done a lot more to stop the military from continuing any further experimentation, whether it be Russia related, whether it be Linda Hamilton's character, everything like that. What happened to them? Did they go to jail? I feel like he would have done more in Search for Elle. When the Upside Down was blown up and everything, when the wormhole was blown up, does anybody else have their powers? I mean, technically speaking, when they blew it up, you know, it's possible that Elle still has her powers. Will's hive mind powers technically, so that should be gone. And then here's the thing too, the ending doesn't make sense, at least for Callie pretending to put Elle out, right? Like, how did Callie make the illusion work to make 11 look like she died in there? When the lab blew up first, Callie, there's no way Callie survived that long. I mean, but if she did, the lab blew up, Callie would have died after that. And there was a good amount of time, a few seconds it seems like, before the lab blew up, or after the lab blew up, and between the point where the connection with Upside Down blew up and went away. That doesn't make sense. Like her illusion should have gone away, and everybody should have seen that Elle was gone. I'm still stuck in the military and how the military handled the Upside Down. If the Demogorgons were so strong against the military when Vecna came back, how come the Mind Flayer barely stood a chance against like 8 kids? I say kids, teens, you know what I mean, with guns and a flamethrower and weapons of their own. The main characters took the Mind Flayer down so quickly. That final battle was maybe like 5-6 minutes, it felt like. But the whole Demogorgon fight scene when they come back, when Vecna comes back in part 2, that felt a lot longer and a lot more high stakes. I just feel like it should be a lot stronger. How did they make that happen so quickly? Let's switch gears a little bit more to the Mind Flayer too. The Mind Flayer, it's called the Mind Flayer. Why didn't it attack anybody's mind? It didn't do anything mentally to any of the characters all season long, especially in the finale. I feel like it could have made anybody's lives darker, but they didn't. It didn't do it. Also, Vecna disconnected from the Mind Flayer when he fought Elle. How did the Mind Flayer keep going? How did the Mind Flayer keep running around and fighting the kids and chasing them and trying to attack Nancy when Vecna was disconnected? And if it was on its own the entire time, why did it wait until Vecna did all the other stuff? Do you get what I'm saying? Like it could have attacked sooner. It should have been dormant a lot longer. Like it didn't need to be dormant the entire time while the kids were there. You know what I mean? But instead it was just it started fighting and then it kept going by itself even after Vecna disconnected, which doesn't really make sense, especially if Vecna was connected to the heart of it all. The Mind Flayer had larvae growing underneath it when Steve and Dustin were poking at it, fighting at it. Why weren't there Demogorgons or Demodogs or baby demos or anything in there to attack? It would have added more stakes to the finale. In season 1, you see that the original Demogorgon hatched out of like this egg thing, this larva, and it looks exactly the same as underneath the Mind Flayer. Let's just talk about Vecna a little bit, Henry, whatever you want to call him. Do they really expect us to watch a play about Henry Creel? They're gonna put all that backstory into a play that nobody's watched? I'm trying hard not to make this a criticism or a critique of the finale, but again, these are just questions, and the finale raises a lot of questions. They only show one quick scene with Henry touching like the stone. I'm assuming it's a meteorite. Do they really expect us to watch a play about Henry becoming Vecna or becoming an evil dude? There's apparently, like, they made a huge plot point out of a side play, and it doesn't really make sense, especially for the finale. One thing they made a point to do is and this doesn't really make sense to me, but Henry Vecna is a villain no matter what. He was going to harm Joyce at the end when he was gargling all that blood. But my question is, why didn't the kids run out? Why didn't they run all the like younger kids out when Vecna was very clearly still alive? Vecna has mind powers. Why was he not using them and attacking any of the other people there, even while he was dying? Like, he can hop into anybody's mind whenever, essentially, except for maybe Elle, right? Why did he not attack the kids? Why did he not kill them? Why did he not do that to the adults, to the teenagers? Why didn't he do that to anybody during the final battle? Let's just watch this guy bleed out while he's actively still alive. That did not make sense to me. That was super unsafe, especially for the younger kids. Also, what was the whole point of Will spending as much time with him? Henry, you're better than this. You can do this. Like, what was the whole point of that if ultimately he's a bad guy regardless? Because the only point that I saw from that is that Will is wrong again. Will is just one of the worst characters in the show, in my personal opinion. The whole point of that scene was pointless because he's a shitty person. Speaking of Vecna having mind powers, the only person he used it on was Hopper during the final battle. Why didn't he do that to anybody else? Vecna should have done more with Hopper, or he could have done something with Joyce or Mike to make him believe that Elle died or anything like that. Why didn't he use his powers mentally for anybody during the final battle? And this is something that didn't make sense to me at all after watching the finale. Why did Vecna need everything to happen on the anniversary of Will's disappearance? What was the significance of that at all, outside of it just being the anniversary? Is it because he likes clocks? I mean, he has the long hand, the big hand, like a clock does, and a regular hand. Is that why? Why does Vecna like clocks so much? I'm gonna veer off into some of the character questions. Why did Eleven leave and not leave any traces behind for Mike or Hopper especially? That is so uncharacteristic of her. Completely. From the entire get-go of the show, she had been trusting Mike the most, more than anybody. And again, I just watched the first season again, just to refresh on it before I made this video and think about it a little bit more about the finale. And I'm bringing this up because in the finale, she talks to Mike specifically about how he's the only one who's ever fully gotten her and been there for her like that. There's no reason whatsoever that she would leave and not try to bring him with her, or at least leave hints so that he joins her. There's no reason whatsoever for that. Also, why do they regress Steve's character again so that he's a ladies' man again, just going from woman to woman in the epilogue? They talked about 3 or 4 different women that he had been with while they were talking on top of that roof. Steve has become a lot more than that. This is kind of a silly question, but was Mike using his dad's glasses? Wait, why is his dad alive? Why is Mike's dad alive? One of the, he should have died. If anybody was gonna die out of the parents, you see the mom survive. Why didn't Mike's dad die? This is just a general question for the series finale as well. Why didn't other people die? The only person that died outside of any military people was Callie, and everybody wanted Callie to die anyways. The only person outside of Vecna and the Mind Flayer, I guess I should say, but still, everybody wanted the Callie to die anyways. So like, it felt like there were no stakes. I feel like that's enough series finale questions. This is gonna be a few questions just based on the season in general. What happened to the military fighting Russia? That plot it was like a subplot in this season, and it kind of went nowhere, but Linda Hamilton's character brought it up a few times. Even Sadie Sink mentioned that she totally forgot about the Russia subplot, or just Russia in general for all of Stranger Things. And it was a huge thing in the other seasons. What happened? This is something that I think a lot of people have noticed, especially as the show has kind of progressed, but it was especially prevalent in this season. Why isn't the Upside Down scary anymore? Why isn't it toxic anymore? They even talk about spores when Steve and Robin are driving back. Why isn't it toxic anymore? I could be wrong because I watched the final season once, right? I think the only time there was a Demogorgon or a Demodog or anything in the Upside Down in this season was when it attacked the military during the first crawl with Hopper. I think that was the only time you see any like Demogorgon, Demodog, any villain like that in the Upside Down, which is super weird. You get a lot more time with Demogorgons and Demodogs in the real world, and they're not even in the other planet as well. Speaking of the Demogorgon, what was the point of the Mind Flayer particles just floating out of it when they zapped it and killed it? Or with Holly, what was the point of the Mind Flayer particles coming out at all? Those came out of the kids after the Mind Flayer had been defeated, so how is it any different from before? You would think that it would be different after the Mind Flayer is defeated, but no, it just goes into the air and goes, I mean, it spirals all the way up the tower when the Demogorgon gets killed, and I don't know why. What was the purpose of that? There's one side of the internet that's gonna hate me for asking this question. What story significance did Will coming out have to do with Vecna's plan at all? at all. Was his Hail Mary simply, hey, Will, I'm gonna control you. And if you don't let me control you, I'm gonna tell everybody that you're gay. Like the whole, again, I just rewatched the entire first season. The entire town knew, like school classmates, his dad who wasn't there and others, everybody knew that Will was gay from the get-go. They called him a bunch of names about it. In the first episode of the first season, there's no story significance. Everybody already knew it. It's not like Vecna would be outing him. Everybody knows exactly why they did the scene and how piss poor timing it was and how long it took. It felt like Will speaking about that took longer than fighting the Mind Flayer. But truly, what was the story significance? What significance did it have to Vecna that Will had to do it before they fought Vecna? Because I don't think Vecna mentioned it at all, outside of maybe like a generic line about like, I want to control you. I don't know. This is a question I understand, but I get why they did it logistically for the sake of the show. Why isn't Max blind now? She should have been blind. She should have stayed blind, technically speaking. This is a huge, huge question, and they barely touched on it in the show. And I really hope they don't just leave it as a, hey, watch the play thing. Why did they gloss over the fact that all the parents are adults, like Hopper, Joyce, Harrington's parents, they all went to school with Vecna when he was Henry? Why did they gloss over that at all? That is huge, that he specifically went to school with all these people and he's attacking their kids. That is huge. Joyce should have recognized the name. Mrs. Wheeler should have recognized the name. Hopper should have recognized the name. They all should have recognized his name, but they didn't. And that is super weird. Like, do they expect us to watch it? I haven't watched the play. I don't know much about it, but I don't think it has anything to do with, I don't think any of the other characters when they were younger are in it outside of Henry. I could be wrong. I'm not gonna watch the play, but why did they gloss over it in the finale? That is so weird. I got 2 more questions, then I'm done with this video because there's so many more I could say, but first one is, was it a game the entire time? They closed it on a D&D book called Stranger Things. Was it a game the entire time? I don't think so. I mean, they're kind of implying it, so maybe. It's a cute nod, but at the same time, I don't think they should have done that. I think they should sell it, but I don't think they should have done that at the end. This is my last question, outside of any like general fan theories or like, did Mike ever find Elle? Did Elle start a new life? You know, anything like that? Where did Hopper and Joyce move to? It's not. This is the biggest question, I think. A lot of people are gonna be wondering, are they gonna do an extended or director's cut of this season specifically, not just the series finale, but the season? Apparently there is a lot of cut content. A lot of leakers are saying there's at least 2 to 3 hours cut, and I could be wrong, right? But the actor for Mr. Clark specifically said there's no Snyder cut for this. They're aware, they know, they're aware of the fan backlash, especially after part 2. I mentioned it in a video before. I've actually made 2 videos about this. Technically, they should have done one more episode at least. They should have done at least one more episode before the finale, explaining a lot more of the Mind Flayer, explaining a lot more of the Vecna, and a few other things. Hell, the epilogue was probably 10 times longer than the final battle. Duffer Brothers are leaving Netflix, but the Stranger Things IP is staying with Netflix. So when the Duffer Brothers start something new at a different company, which, I mean, Netflix is trying to buy everything anyways, but still, when the Duffer Brothers start something new, do you think that Netflix is going to release an extended version of season 5? Box set, maybe? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, Netflix is a streaming platform, but the producers like Sean Levy and the Duffer Brothers, they are aware of how much everybody hates Game of Thrones season 8, I think. I didn't watch Game of Thrones because of it. They did not want to screw the landing like Game of Thrones did. However, I think there's enough fan backlash. I really do. If you look at the comments on Stranger Things posts on social media, they're oddly positive. They're like so positive, right? It feels very filtered. And there is very actively a lot of backlash for this finale and for this season specifically. So the question is, are they gonna change it? Are they gonna add more? Are they gonna do a deluxe edition? Maybe with a Stranger Things D&D game release? I think that'd be a smart move. Hell, that'd be a really smart move. They'd make a lot of money from it. Stranger Things is really the only thing that Netflix has going for it, if I'm being honest. So I think that an extended edition of season 5 would get a lot of subscriptions back up. You know, say the time July rolls around, August, September rolls around, do a 10-year anniversary for Stranger Things season 1 with season 5 extended edition. That's my question. Do you think that's gonna happen? Time will tell. Anyways, I'm Alex. These are blue light glasses. I just had them on because I've been rewatching the whole season, like I said. And my eyes, I don't want to kill my eyes. If you guys have more questions, let me know down below because I'm really into this, honestly. I never considered myself a huge Stranger Things fan, but every single time that it comes out, I watch it all of it immediately. I binge it all immediately. and I became obsessed with it for like weeks. It's taken so long to release that I forget every single time how excited I am to watch it. I had an original Stranger Things sweatshirt that I donated years ago, and it was from like 2017. And I regret it now because it feels vintage because it's like almost 10 years now, you know? So, I mean, Stranger Things came out in 2016. It's January 1st right now, 2026. So guys, let me know what you think about my questions. If you have answers, let me know, because these are just questions that I have. I haven't really looked on the internet for other questions. If you have other questions though, let me know too, because I'm into it. Thanks for checking it out. You liked the other videos that I posted about it. So get back to me if you think you want more content like this. But until then, I'm Alex. Have a happy new year.